Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about the Magnum Boker, or Boker Magnum, I don't know how you want to say that, 2-grip tactical knife. Now, first thing up, it comes in this nice metal tin, literature, adjustable wrench for adjusting the pivot and removing the scales if you want to. I put that back in frame. And this is a pretty heavy knife, so let me show you by heavy. We're going to pull this up. And so the whole package together is 220 grams, and even alone the knife is 153, so it's not a light blade. I purchased it blind, as in I saw a picture of it online, but I couldn't find a review anywhere of this thing. And I couldn't even find additional pictures, so I just saw the one profile. But I like the shape, I like the fluting in this. G10 scales, they're a green color. I don't think I have any G10 green scales. The one thing I couldn't figure out was where was the belt clip, because you can't see from this side where the belt clip is, or the pocket clip. There it is. That alone may have turned me off, because I prefer a tip up carry, as I've explained in the past. But it was a decent price, particularly seeing as I had a gift card, so I only paid $11 for this. So I took a gamble on it. It's got a large lanyard hole, which you could get a piece of 550 paracord through there without a problem. So you could remove the pocket cup completely and just keep it in your pocket if you had large pockets or a cargo pants or something, and you can just use the lanyard to draw it out with. It has some, there's jimping here, but it looks chunky and such. It's very smooth. There's no sharp edges, and it isn't aggressive. It works, and you can feel it, and it's in these two locations. But it is in no way harmful on your fingers at all, on your palm. It's very comfortable. They did a nice. The overall finish on this knife is really quite good. As you can tell, G10 scales, steel liners. I like these scalloped pillars here, the scooped pillar. I really appreciate that. That's a nice touch. This is a solid cylinder, which is both a standoff, a support, and a stop for the blade itself. Here we have a pivot, and this is a star drive pivot with the overall just kind of a machined look. And on this side, you can't see the pivot at all. It's probably just a flat, kind of a Chicago screw, Chicago style screw, if I were to design it. It has 2 thumb studs, and both again there's some machining on here. It's a nice touch. They have a nice feel to them. They don't stick out too far, which is very important. I don't like pillars that go beyond the scale. They should be flush or slightly below them. You may be asking, why have I not opened this blade yet? Well, now we begin to have the problems. So this is a thumb stud opening blade, and they have a nice little scallop in here. So you come in like this, and you come in like this, and you can just barely open this with one hand. The reason is there's a couple of reasons that what's going on here. The distance between that pivot and that thumb stud is too close. They needed this further out so that you would have greater leverage. I think the reason it was so close is because they were going for a certain aesthetic. And I think aesthetics came before mechanics, and that is never a good design. Mechanics should always come first, aesthetics second. I am a firm believer that if you have something well designed, it will be attractive. So there you go. Now it has, this section is lower than this, so you can access the liner lock, and again, more of that somewhat chunky but smooth jimping there. My friend Scott would have no problem with this. It is not aggressive on your thumb. It doesn't hurt in the least. And here we have the second problem. It is very, very difficult to move that. It is far, far too tight, even though there is sculpting here to offer a relief. So they're giving you less resistance. So in essence, this is a 2-opening knife that really takes 2 hands to close. Now, you could be asking, well, Tetsubo, why did you not just loosen the pivot and so that the knife was then deployable in a more in an easier manner? Excellent question. And I did loosen the center. In fact, I loosened to the point where the blade was landing here at the union between the scale and the liner. And even when it was landing here, it was that far off, I could still not get this to deploy with a thumb flick, which is really how this device should be deployed. And even at that point, I could not open it as a push comfortably or easily. It is an utter failure mechanically of construction. This is too tight. This is too close. The pivot doesn't work properly. This thing does not function as a one-handed opening or closing knife. Now, having said that, I do like the overall shape. I think, for example, the scale is not skeletonized. They should have. They should have skeletonized that right there. They could have taken out 4 or 5 holes in there and made it a whole lot lighter. I think the scales are a smidge on the thick side, not too far, not too much, but maybe 10, 15%, maybe 15% too thick. They could have made that a little lighter. However, the overall feel, it's quite nice, and if you wanted to, you can very comfortably choke up on that if you needed to do some close-in work. As far as the blade itself, it comes out of the box with an acceptable edge. It's stone washed. It has a flat grind with a secondary bevel, not as good as a Moran or a convex grind, but definitely something I think that is quite usable. It has a nice swedge back here. It's even. It's very well executed. This comes out here, so there's a fair amount of thickness all the way to the tip, so you're not going to have to worry about your tip breaking off, so it has a lot of tip strength. The grinds overall are nice and even. You notice in here, these screws are almost perfectly the same, and this is not an expensive knife. So overall, the fit and the finish and everything is pretty nice looking. It feels pretty good in the hand. You really can't do a comfortable reverse grip on this. It doesn't lend itself to that. But if you wanted to do a skull crushing move, this would actually do a decent skull crushing move. And it's not really geared at all towards left-handed people, in my opinion, because there is no cutout here for your thumb. Even if it did flip as it really should, it's not designed for a left-handed person. And of course, this is designed for a right-handed person. So this is very much a right-handed design. Not to mention, you also can't flip the pocket clip. It's pretty, but the problems with this knife are in its design, and I don't think returning this is going to get me anything. I mean, I get a new knife, but it's not going to be that distance is going to be the same. It's still not going to deploy right. So I may just call this a wash. I only paid $11 for it out of my pocket, and so I'm just gonna not worry about the fact that this thing really doesn't meet my needs. I think it's a failure, and it's another example of sometimes when you buy the Boker Magnums, their Magnum line, sometimes it's a hit or miss, and this is definitely a miss. So if anybody out there has one of these and can explain to me how theirs works, does it work better than this, that they find it a useful design, I would really love to know.